Joining me now is former D.C. homicide detective and Fox News contributor Ted Williams and former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker. It's good to see you both, first of all, but I want to start with you, Chris, because I assume the FBI would have helped with the trail that led more than 2,500 miles from the crime scene, right? And what kind of things behind the scenes were they doing to follow that trail?
Yeah, I think one of the things they bring to the table is forensics, some forensic expertise, particularly in the area of DNA and trace evidence and that sort of thing. They also bring the software applications that allow you to use artificial intelligence to dive into all the data, forensics, interviews, tips and leads. In such a high volume, you really have to have that type of application to work on that. But I think we're going to find that forensics played a significant role here. The dominoes are falling, and as you see, his car's being searched, his house is being searched, or apartment, or there's two apartments they're searching. There's going to be a lot more evidence that comes to bear here. Interesting character. He's a grad student, criminology. May have posted on Reddit a project looking for tips and leads from ex-cons on victim selection. So I think we're going to see a Bundy-like character emerge here.
Interesting. So, Ted, I wanted to ask you, as a former homicide detective, looking back, we heard a lot of frustration. It was mentioned there in the news conference from the families of the victims about no suspect being named, not a lot of information being given out. So when you worked a homicide, is that, first of all, a tactic? And second of all, you heard the police chief say he was 100% behind the decision not to give up any information. What do you make of that?
Well, Ed, that's a standard procedure in any kind of a homicide investigation, and that is you only give out as much information as you need to try to get and bring the public along to help you. In this investigation, they decided to hold a lot close to the vest, and as a result of that, they've now got this man who is a suspect. It was interesting, Ed, during the course of this press conference that for the first time, they, meaning law enforcement, actually said that there were defensive wounds from some of these suspects. So that led me to believe, and I think Chris will agree, that there was some DNA that was recovered. Now, that vehicle that they have recovered there in Pennsylvania, that vehicle is also a part of the crime scene. That vehicle will be processed, as well as the apartment in which this individual lived. And as a result of that, from what we've been told by the medical examiner, there was a great deal of blood. So therefore, whoever killed these people, and we believe that this is the person, according to law enforcement, that there is some trace evidence, I think, that they will find.
Interesting. So, Chris, do you feel that that Brian Kohlberger was in the sights of investigators for a while? They did say that the warrants were filed yesterday, but again, investigators doing research in him. Do you think they were doing research before, or was this sort of fell quickly right here at the end because of some piece of evidence?
Yeah, taking a cue from the chief's statement about having some sleepless nights as they built the case, I think that the information, the linchpin information, came up in the last, say, 3 or 4 days, maybe even a smaller, more compressed time frame than that. And then, once the dam breaks, you start matching forensic evidence, you start matching up events and interviews and the timelines and the entire sort of the holistic view of the crime scene. Then they very quickly pulled this information together into an affidavit to support his arrest. It'll be very interesting when that affidavit gets unsealed. If he waives extradition, that'll happen fairly quickly. If he fights extradition, and really the only issue for extradition is whether he is the person that's charged in the warrant, then it's going to take a little bit longer. But once that affidavit is unsealed, we're going to get a lot of detail.
Ted, now we know that they have found the car, or a car that they were looking for, but not the murder weapon. What do you make of the fact that the police chief was asking for any and all tips related to this individual?
Edward, this case if we have the perpetrator, and I believe from all indications we do have the right and proper person who may have killed these 4 victims, this case was driven by 2 things. One, the evidence that was found on that scene, as well as the public's help. And what I think the chief is saying is that we still need to be vigilant, and he's asking the public to continue to be vigilant out there because there is still a murder weapon, and they would love, meaning law enforcement, to find that murder weapon and to be able to tie it to this crime scene. So that becomes significant and important in this investigation.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.